to believe we're just 9 days to kick off. Welcome in NFL Total Access, everyone, presented by Payday. I'm Amber Theo Harris alongside Brett Lewis. We also have James Jones, Willie McGinest, and Steve White on the show today.
Rob Gronkowski also on the show today. And this is the first summer of retired Gronk. We're finding out it won't give way to a fall marked by the return of Gronk, at least not yet. Right. And what was a highly anticipated lead-up to today's Rob Gronkowski news conference, the former Patriots tight end announcing his partnership with a CBD company and not proclaiming a comeback to the NFL, but did emotionally detail his reasoning for retirement.
I needed to recover. I was not in a good place. Football was bringing me down, and I didn't like it. And I was losing that joy in life, like the joy. I'm sorry right now, but I really was, and I was fighting through it. And I knew what I signed up for, and I knew what I was fighting through. And I knew I just have to fix myself.
Let's bring in our NFL Network insider, Ian Rappaport. Ian, you were there for the news conference today in New York and had Gronk on your Rap Sheet and Friends podcast. What did you learn from hearing Gronk today and from your conversation with him?
I learned a lot, and actually that Rob Gronkowski appearance on the Rap Sheet and Friends podcast for next week, the season opener, had a lengthy chat, including about his love for the game, why he played football, and how much being injured and just not feeling like himself took away from that. It was really some fascinating stuff, basically saying that for his last 2 or more years, everything he did was simply about getting on the field, making sure his body was okay, and just managing. And that is something that got him thinking about his future, trying to figure out, was this something he really wanted to do, Rhett? And, you know, there were a lot of things I was not expecting. First of all, he said he likes to watch football as a spectator. That was kind of cool. He talked about his biggest moment in football, his best memory, why Tom Brady is so great. But, of course, the big thing that everybody wanted to know is when would Rob Gronkowski unretire, and would he actually unretire? Listen to what he said when I asked him those kind of questions.
I've had gut feelings, and then I didn't go with them. I went with a different option, and then it never works out. And I swear it never does. You always want to go with what you're truly feeling, even if it doesn't make sense to someone else. If it makes sense to you, then it makes sense to do that. So, whatever. If I get the gut feeling, that's what I would need. And like my soul would have to be on fire, and I wouldn't just listen to it for one day. It would have to be at like a consistent basis.
It was pretty clear that there was nothing definitive from Gronkowski, nothing saying, I'm never playing again, or I'm definitely coming back. The open-endedness, no doubt, Rhett, is something that is going to take us through the football season. So many questions on, is Rob Gronkowski going to come back? He said thousands of people ask him. We still do not know.
All right, Ian Rappaport, sit tight right there. We'll get back to you here in just a second. First, I want to bring in our former Patriot and Super Bowl champion, Willie McGinest. Willie, I know you know Gronk well, so listening to him today, what was your reaction to what forced him from the game?
I agree with him for the most part. I know there's a lot of layers to why Gronk, what he was going through the last couple of years, and when you talk about a player that's battled a lot of injuries, that's played in the trenches, it takes a lot to get back on the football field. I was in the owner's box during some of those games where he wasn't playing and watched him pace back and forth because he wanted to be out there playing with his teammates. So I know his affection and his love for the game is still there because he's a competitor and he loves the game of football. But when you're battling the injuries like we just saw Andrew Luck go through and some other players retire early, you contemplate retirement and moving on because of what it takes to get back on the football field. And I said it earlier. I said, you know what? His love for the game is still there. Right. I don't think it's over. When he retired, I think there's still something there. But now that he's healthy, now that he's feeling better, he's feeling good, his mental part of it may change or has to change.
Well, you said back in March, before Gronk even announced his retirement, that you thought he would retire, but that he would also come back later in the season. Hearing him today, do you still feel like he might do that?
Absolutely. There's a need for him. I mean, you talk about Benjamin Watson, he'll be gone for a few games. Suspension, they lost another tight end in injury. The Patriots still have his rights. He still has a great relationship with the quarterback. That's still there for another year. And when you talk about a guy that's going to be away from the game, you heard him say he likes watching the games. So when you're not so far removed from it, and you start to get those sweat bubbles because you want to compete and go out there, I think there's an opportunity. His agent also mentioned it at the annual meetings that, don't put it past if he comes back that, Gronk could possibly.
Well, whether Gronk returns or not, he leaves the game as the most dominant scoring receiver of his time. Wow. 79 touchdowns since 2010, most in the NFL. Let's get back to our NFL.